Okay, next part of Tefillin is the various different customs when you put on Tefillin. Do you stand? Do you sit? Shh. So, it's interesting, all the brachas of mitzvahs have to be said standing. To give you an example, technically, when you blow the main shofar blowing, they're called tkiyas meyushav. Technically, you're allowed to sit. The custom is everybody stands. But according to halacha, you're allowed to sit when they blow the first main tkiyas, you're allowed to sit. Nevertheless, it says, when you make the bracha, before blowing the shofar, everybody has to stand. When you make a bracha on a mitzvah, with a few exceptions, Pesach, Seder, a few exceptions, you're supposed to make the bracha standing. So what happens when you make a bracha on the... same thing by Megillah. It's coming up in a little while. You're allowed, when the guy that reads has to stand, because out of respect to the community, Chabad Tzibur. But everybody else is allowed to sit when they read the Megillah. But when they make the brachas at the beginning, the halacha is everybody has to stand. Why? When you make a bracha on a mitzvah, you have to stand. So many people sit when they put on their hand tefillin, and they stand for the head tefillin. Sephardim do that. According to Kabbalah, many people do that. You put on the hand tefillin sitting, and then you stand for the head tefillin. Nevertheless, the bracha though for the tefillin, even those people that sit, for the bracha and the tefillin, you have to say standing. Okay, that's a din clearly in Shulchan Aruch. So some people will put on the tefillin, like Sephardim do that also. They put on the tefillin shalyat sitting. But nevertheless, before you make the bracha, you're supposed to put the tefillin in position, so to speak. Because again, when we do a bracha on a mitzvah, we want to minimize the separation between the bracha and the actual doing of the mitzvah. Okay, so when you make a bracha on the tefillin, you want to be able to put on the tefillin right away. So you can't make the bracha and then take it out of the bag and put it on. It's too long of a break. So you have the tefillin already. It doesn't matter if you stand or sit. The tefillin are supposed to be in position, that you can just tighten the knot or whatever it is, and then you make the bracha. Now, Sephardim, and we said many people, Kabbalah, would sit when they put on the hand tefillin. So you put it on, and then you stand for the head tefillin. The minhag ha'olam, generally speaking, in the Ashkenazi community at least, is everybody stands when they put on the hand and the head. Again, the Sephardic community, many people still sit when they put on the hand tefillin. That's a clear din, Shulchan Aruch, Ramah, that's clear. The bracha of a mitzvah has to be said standing. Okay, now, that's good. Now, where is the proper place to put on the tefillin? Okay, now there's a Gemara that says, Yash Mokim Berosh, there's a place in the head to put on 2 pairs of tefillin. Okay, and you can put on the hand 2 pairs of tefillin. Now, which means like this: when you wear the tefillin, demonstration, the tefillin have to be beinei nechem, between your eyes. Okay, it says Tadav is beinei necha, or in the second parsha Shema beinei nechem. So the Koraites, who didn't believe in the oral tradition, they would actually wear the tefillin here, because that's what Bein Einechem means, between your eyes. So they didn't believe in the oral tradition. And the Torah says simply Bein Einechem, so they would wear the head tefillin here, and in between the eyes. We know halacha Moshe Sinai, tradition, you wear the tefillin here, but Bein Einechem. What does it mean, Bein Einechem? You can't wear the tefillin here, you can't wear the tefillin here. The tefillin have to be mamish, up straight, In fact, many people have a mirror that they look and make sure the tefillin are straight. So when the Gemara says you have place on the head for 2 pairs of tefillin, it doesn't mean like this, because there isn't, because then neither of them are kosher. What it means is the place of the head tefillin goes from here to the middle of the head. That's the place where you could wear the tefillin. Not below the hair line, and not higher up than midway up in the head. So when the Gemara says you have place in the head to wear 2 pairs of tefillin, those that wear Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, many Sfardim do this, by the way, and many people that do Kabbalah things, they wear both sets of tefillin at the same time. So what do? They have smaller tefillin, because if you have big tefillin, it just doesn't fit. So they have smaller tefillin. No, there were guys in Shul that used to do that. They used to put on both hands, and now, okay, let's go to the hand. The area of the tefillin of the hand is on the muscle. It has to be facing the heart, because it says, it says, al levavchem v'al nafshechem, right? Ukshartem leis. So the hand tefillin have to be facing the heart. If you put it on the outside of your arm facing out, or you put it here facing up, then you're not getting the mitzvah. Okay? But there's still place over here on the muscle. If you have smaller pairs of tefillin, you would be able to put on 2 pairs of tefillin on the hand. Then the question, well, how do you wrap the straps? There's a whole procedure they have with the one strap on top of the next. It's a whole thing that they do. In our circles, we don't do that. We put on Rabbeinu Tam separately after davening. So anyway, so the head tefillin has to be not lower than the hairline. If you wear tefillin down here, it's no good. It has to be lower. The lowest part of the tefillin should not be below the hairline.
Why is that?
Huh? That's what halacha mashum sinai. That's what they got from the tradition, like they say. Because it has to be on the head. So that's the place of the head.
How low can it be here? Like sometimes you're trying to pull up the sleeve and it doesn't go high enough.
Okay, so you have a problem, Taka. Sometimes people wear sweaters, and you put it, or yourself, person themselves, it's cold. Okay, they're wearing a sweater, and they pull it up, and it only goes a little bit. Now, you have a problem, because the tefillin have to be on the elbow. Okay, this is the area of the tefillin. So either take off the sweater, or you have to make sure the sweater goes all the way up, that you can be able to put on the tefillin properly.
How low can it be still be?
It could be until, like, where the bends, where the arm bends, but still it's preferred to be in the middle of it. That's the proper place of the tefillin, it's in the middle of the muscle on the hand. Yeah, it's a big problem sometimes, you meet people, you're putting on tefillin with them in the street, and, they're just not going to take off their sweater, and it's tight. Yeah, it's an issue, but you have to, if not, you can't put on that tefillin. You can't do it, because you're not going to be yetzer the tefillin. In fact, he says over here, that when the winter time, when you wear warm clothing, you have to make sure that it says in Hebrew, the sleeve should be able to put the tefillin, the hand tefillin, in a proper place. And you shouldn't wear the tefillin next to the elbow, because then it's questionable if it's... But nevertheless, when you put on the hand tefillin, okay, it should be facing the heart, okay, because it says al levavchem. So that's the proper place for putting the head tefillin and the hand tefillin. Now, in the back of the head tefillin, there's a knot, a kasher. With that, some people make a dollar, different customs how you make the. But where should the knot in the back of the tefillin be? So in the back of the head, around here, you feel there's a bone. Okay, that's in the back of the head. There's a bone. The knot should preferably be on the bone, or right below it. But on the bone, part of the kasher, at least on the bone, coming down a little bit is not a problem. But it can't be, in other words, that's why sometimes if you borrow somebody else's tefillin, and let's say you have a small head and they have a big head, or vice versa, then you have a small head and they have a massive head, so the tefillin are going to go down to your ears, So you're not going to be yetzer. So then what do you need to do? You have to shorten the knot to make it smaller size, And if you need to make it bigger, you need to make it bigger. But sometimes making it bigger is not as important sometimes as making it smaller. Because what happens if the tefillin will still go here? Okay, it won't come to here, but they'll still come here. That's still kosher. Because it's still on the place of the tefillin.
So you're saying it's more important where the back is? You can adjust the front here to here as long as it's above the hairline.
Right.
But the back still has to be there.
Correct. But if tefillin is too big, then it's not going to be. It's going to be all the way down to your eyes. I mean, then that's even more like the Korahites do. I mean, so that you have to be very careful in those things that it should be done. The tefillin should be worn. So in fact, there's an interesting thing. There's an Avon Nezer. It's a very great Polish basic. He writes. There's a question of borrowing somebody's tefillin if you have to make the knot bigger or smaller. He says it's questionable in halacha to do that. Why? Because it has to be a kesher. It has to be a knot. If you're changing the knot, then it's not a kesher shel kayama. It's not a permanent knot. So then you're making the knot smaller, the place of the tefillin. So he questions about the fact of changing somebody's tefillin from bigger to smaller. But the Rebbe has a whole thing about this, and the Rebbe says it's not true because it's a kasher shel mitzvah, like you find in Chumash when the Jews traveled in the Midbar. Al pi Hashem yachanu, al pi Hashem yiso. They traveled by Hashem and they camped by Hashem. And it says even though some places they stayed a half a day. And then they moved on. So nevertheless, because Hashem said it's a mitzvah, that becomes a permanency. So even though you're changing this, not the actual knot, but you're changing the shape, the size of it, it doesn't matter because it's still considered it's a mitzvah, it's a permanent knot. But people have to be careful if they borrow somebody's tefillin that's much bigger than theirs, and then you have a problem. If you borrow tefillin without permission, so we learned you're allowed to do it because the person is happy that you do mitzvah with his property. So guy's happy if people use this tefillin for a mitzvah. But we learned that's only if the guy doesn't get angry for you using the tefillin. Like for instance, if you don't put it back where you found it, you put it back somewhere else, so then the guy's angry at you that you borrowed his tefillin and didn't put him back. So then it's only a question if it was stolen tefillin or not. Then you wouldn't be doing a mitzvah. So the same thing if you change the knot, making it bigger or smaller, you have to just make sure to put it back where it was to make sure that the guy shouldn't be upset that he has to make it bigger or smaller because then he'll be upset. And if he'll be upset, it's not going to be, it might be stolen tefillin if you use it without permission. So you have to make sure that when you're doing it, you should, so the head tefillin has to be here, not lower than the hairline, not above midway. The hand tefillin has to be on the muscle, but it should be facing down. Okay, facing the heart, not facing up or another, because then you wouldn't be it. Okay,